When you come to look at what we call postmodernity, one of the key things is that, well, it's nice to live in what's a veritable theological Tesco's. I can have a smiling Buddha in my garden and somebody else, whatever deity you like. And there's this kind of supposedly libertarian attitude, this very liberal attitude that seems to be incredibly generous, incredibly liberal to everyone and everything except the God of Israel and the revelation in Jesus. That seems to cause still such incredible offense. And yet one God is so much at the heart of this book. You go to the synagogue in Belfast. In very graphic terms, this is actually expressed on the doors of what's called the Aron HaKodesh, the Holy Ark, the place where the scrolls are kept. In a kind of modern artistic representation, you've got the Shema, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And this is what we want to tease out a little bit this morning. This relationship of this one God to the figure who is so central in terms of Christian history, the figure of Jesus. And I'm going to try to avoid some of this kind of complicated terminology like Trinitarianism that's crept in. And your Jehovah's Witness is quite right when they say this word doesn't occur in the Bible. No, it doesn't. And at best, it's a human attempt to try to capture what the Bible reveals. So let's try to listen to the Bible itself. Listen to God according to God. And that's why, and I've repeated this and I keep repeating it, the truth, when you come to read the Bible, I think these just wonderful, liberating and encouraging words of Heschel. To develop a sense of awe, to realize that life takes place under wide horizons, to discover that horizons that range beyond the span of my individual life and the almost unmitigated arrogance of the human who says, I've got all the answers, working within my own little framework, my own little closed continuum, where how many arrogate themselves to think, oh, we can get it all. It's bigger than any one individual lifespan. It's bigger than the span even of the life of a nation. It is certainly even bigger than the span of a generation. And it is much beyond the span of any era. So this morning, with Isaiah, it's an invitation to take off the brain blinkers. Because so often we can approach the Bible with our brain blinkers on. And we're trying to fit everything into the little kind of framework that we're comfortable with. When in reality, this kind of blows our mind to something about awe and wonder. Because Isaiah is tapping into this incredible vision of a God who is so big, and we're going to see him in several places in Isaiah this morning, who is at the beginning and at the end, who is beyond comparison. There's sort of nothing that robs the modern mind. There is no greater deficiency today than the lack of the sense of the unique. And when you come, we're going to discover to the God of Israel, the God of Scripture, uniqueness is something that is very, very much to the fore. Now, Isaiah, when we come to look at him, and what I encourage you to do, because I never want you to just take things because I've said them or any preacher says them. Ground them in this quite unique text. Take Isaiah 40 to 55. I've suggested this before, but it's something, if you haven't done, try it. Begin at 40 and then just read through to 55. And as you go through, simply begin to make a note of every distinct name or aspect of God that you meet. And you're going to discover this veritable kaleidoscope where you get so many different angles. Take, for instance, just chapter 44 at verse 6. Thus saith the Lord. Well, the King of Israel, the Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first and the last. Beside me there is no God. Now there's just several in that one verse, but as you start to go through, you'll soon run into several A4 pages. And this feeds your mind that this is, it really does trouble me at times, where this God, with his transcendent greatness, with his holy otherness, has been reduced to a God of one particular little national community. Where this God has been tied down to one flag. Where this God has been tied down to the limitations of one little political entity. For God and Ulster. What an insult to the God of Scripture. This transcendent being, to be so parochialized and looked through the myopia of sort of one particular political cause,